Good evening. I'd like to call the Monday, September the 12th, 2022 City of North Augusta study session to order. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to our City Administrator, Mr. Jim Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for this evening, we'll have three items for discussion. One for the City Council meeting for next week, show you the draft agenda. The second item will be department details presented by our department heads and senior managers. And lastly, under Mayor's Matters, I'll be providing a fiscal year 2022 update as we head into the fiscal year 2023 planning process. So with that, if I can, I'll go ahead and move over to the proposed agenda. You have two proclamations, Mr. Mayor, both for Constitution Week and Stormwater Awareness Week that are currently on the agenda. And subject to any questions on those, we'll move to unfinished business, item number 6, under ordinance number 2022-13, to amend section 2-36, regular meeting days of the Code of Ordinances for the City of North Augusta, to provide for the cancellation of the first meeting in April in the event such meeting comes during the week of the Masters Golf Tournament, ordinance second reading. So this was one that our city attorney had brought to my attention and crafted a update to the ordinance. You all voted on this previously, and this would be a second reading of that ordinance. So under new business, item 7, under planning and development, ordinance number 2022-15, to amend the zoning map of the city of North Augusta, South Carolina by rezoning plus or minus 0.52 acres of land owned by Hardy Land LLC, Aiken County Tax Parcel 005-19-06-006 from PD Plan Development to R5 Mixed Residential Ordinance, first reading. And in your packet, and I've got Tommy here to bail me out in case I get in the deep end, you can see there's a parcel that's right near the car wash at the intersection of Pisgah and Five Notch. And so the parcel immediately south of the subject parcel has the same ownership, and that already is zoned R5 and has a project that's been approved to move forward at that parcel. The subject parcel in question has a facility on it already, and my understanding is with this R5 designation, intends to put forward a project which I believe is 5 apartments.
That's the actual car wash now. So that'll be raised.
I'm sorry, the car wash is right by the gas station. Thanks for the correction. The gas station's at the corner, and what we're talking about is the car wash.
So my question is, when Plan Commission approved the townhomes, was there conversation, was this like a second step that we knew about, or was this something he just down the road now say, hey, I want to buy it, I want to put 5 apartments? Because that seems odd, the townhomes, and they want to have apartments right next to them.
That's a great question that I'm sure Mr. Paradise would be happy to anser for you
I was looking
when he comes up to the podium.
I was looking past your right ear too, Tommy.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I wished I had a good answer for you. I don't remember this one coming to the Planning Commission. I think it might have been before me for the rezoning, so I'm not privy to those conversations. It would, the way he's got it laid out is he'll have one driveway access serving both parcels, and both of them are the same owner. So I would think that there was some foresight in there and some plans, but I don't know what was discussed back whenever.
Was there any conversation on the Planning Commission on this about those being apartments? Was there any discussion in the Planning Commission meeting?
No, sir.
Okay. And they'll use the same entrance, so, I mean, between those townhomes and those apartments, they're going to have more than 25 uses a day.
Well, it is, for the traffic impact study, it would be, I think that's what you're referring to.
Right.
It's 50 trips during the peak hour. It's the peak hour trips that count. Okay. And I'm trying to look, there's the attachment number 7, well.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I was
Over there, yeah, it shows the layout of how the apartments are proposed to be.
Did he kind of give any information of what those apartments are going to look like? I mean, what's the market of those? Do we know what that's gonna?
Not at this point, no, sir.
But it'll be adjacent to those townhomes. I just think that's odd to me that, you know, I'm buying that townhome and I'm gonna have an apartment next to me. I don't know. Okay, that's all I had.
So that property is basically, he's wanting that just for the apartments, because I do remember when we did the townhomes, that's
Yeah, I'm
been,
in townhome.
that's, I can't remember how long ago it was, and so now they want to buy that and put apartments in?
Tommy, I remember the discussion about the property because it's in my neighborhood, and at that point in time, he bought the property where the townhomes are going, and he had an option, a 90-day option on the car wash property if he wanted to buy that, and he had 90 days to make up his mind.
So you said it's the same owner for the townhomes and the apartment?
Yeah, and Glenn, he's the one that built those nice townhomes next to the post office,
Yeah, yeah.
and also the ones over there next to WAFJ. There's like 4 or 5 or 6 of them on that back road. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Glenn does
yeah.
great work.
Yeah, yeah, no
I just,
But now,
odd to have an
talking about it, I mean, what's gonna be at Bluegrass? Same thing, right? Townhomes and apartments on the Buena Vista?
Yes, ma'am.
And I mean, that's same type thing that's coming in. Now, is the car wash gonna be tore down? I presume then, that's where the apartments are going?
Correct.
Car wash,
Car wash will be gone,
yeah,
or what's left of one.
okay. And that wasn't Mackey property, is it still Mackey property? He sold it to this young man?
Wannago boy had bought it at one point. Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this out there. I know we briefly touched on it. I'm still not liking the ideas of apartments. I mean, we have some, I don't know what, this is something we've got to discuss at some point down the road. You know, how do we, I think the checks and balances works, but I mean, every development that has come through here in the last 2 we've gone through, they all have apartments too. At some point, you know, we don't want to have just apartments. I'd like to see more home ownership, you know, and I don't know if these townhomes, and Tommy, I don't know if you know, if they're just rentals or are they actually going to sell them. I know over there behind, was that North Hills? I think most of those are owned. They're not really, or some of them may be rentals, but a lot of them are owned, and that's what I'd rather see. You know, I still go back to, with the exception of Ironwood and 2 or 3 others, a lot of these apartments are built, and then they go to the lowest bidder. They keep going downhill, and I just, if we just keep letting them, I'm not worried about right now. I'm sure it's very attractive. 30 years from now, are they going to be run down and derelict and, you know, whatever, or are they going to upkeep them? I mean, in the sense of Ironwood, there's a checks and balance. You got Hammond's Ferry right there. Bob, I know this is right outside your neighborhood. You know, does Knollwood, do those houses keep this in check where it's nice? You know, I don't know, but at some point, I guess I'm not opposed to townhomes and apartments. I just would like to know if they're owned or if they're just strictly rental. You know, nothing wrong with rentals, but, you know, you just look at that over the years. You know, my grandparents had 25 rentals at one time, and, you know, I look back on it now, and I'm like, you know, they just patched it enough to get by, unfortunately, and I just don't want to see that moving forward. But I think it's something we need to sit down and really discuss.
Well, that will be one of the topics on our joint planning commission city council meeting. Okay. But anyway, but you bring in some valid points. And I think there is a place, if it's strategic, for apartments. And maybe this is one of those examples because Glenn has a good track record. It's hard for me to believe he would want to put something next to those townhomes that would be a negative. I just think, so kind of benefit of the doubt. That's why I was wondering with the planning commission, if they had asked any questions about that or they had any concerns, but evidently they were fine with it, so.
Well, as I had the privilege of talking to Mr. Jackson this morning, him and I, and I know a lot of times people down apartments, but I think as a leader in this community, we have still got to consider everybody needs a place to live. I mean, everybody cannot afford a house. We had a young lady today in our business, she said, Miss Pat, I've had to move to Augusta because I just cannot find a place I can afford here. She's a hardworking mama, does just great by her children. But like I said, everybody cannot, we grew up in an apartment growing up, and I think with this younger generation coming, that, well, Bob, you talked about your son, that who wants to cut grass? Of course, I don't want to cut grass, and I've been here forever, but who wants to maintain a yard? Who wants to do this? No, they don't want to. And I mean, and I just feel, yes, do we want apartments everywhere? No, but we also got to remember, we're here to serve every citizen, no matter what your income is or what. So, and like I said, I think these builders need to be aware that we want to keep them up. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Just one quick thing, it's not really directed at anybody. Bob, I know you live right there. Have you heard any negative, positive, pro or con in your neighborhood about this?
I have not. Most of the discussion that I've been involved in has been the expansion on the end of Green Forest, and that's pretty well calmed down.
No other questions? Go ahead, Ms. Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving to item number 8 under Planning and Development, resolution number 2022-39, accepting a deed of dedication for the streets, sanitary sewer, stormwater collection and fire suppression systems, detention ponds, and associated easements and rights of way, along with a maintenance guarantee and letter of credit for Bergen Place West Phase 5. So this is a routine action we do with developments as they mature, where they turn over parts of the infrastructure over to the city, and then there is a letter of credit that goes along with that. So if something fails in that period of time, the developer's still on the hook for it. I don't have any major concerns about anything going along with Bergen Place West. That's a well-established neighborhood north of I-20. And so I would recommend that would also be something that the council would consider. Subject to any questions on that, we'll move to item number 9 under Engineering and Public Works, resolution.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. How many more phases are there for Bergen West? We're in phase 5 now.
I want to say it's the last phase, but I'll defer to Tommy or Tom. Yeah. I guessed correctly. Yes, it's the last phase.
Okay.
Moving on to number 9, under Engineering and Public Works, resolution number 2022-40, to authorize construction of the Greenway extension, Woodstone to Mayfield Drive project by city forces, and to establish the construction budget and funding source. So again, I've got Tom Zeser here who could probably do a better job of discussing it, but I'll give it a shot, which is essentially we were moving forward on the Greenway extension project, which is the north terminus of the Greenway. It currently ends in a development, and this would take it further north along a piece of property that I believe was donated or acquired by North Augusta Forward. We'll put it into the street system with the hope that someday it would connect into the country club property as we go forward. So as we went through this process and went through the grant requirements, came to a number of issues associated with the bid for private contractors to come in and take a look at this specific entity. And so after we got our bids back, we came to our attention that it was actually going to be significantly cheaper for us to do it ourselves, as opposed, even with the match requirement, just for us to be able to do it in-house with our personnel and pay for material. And so Tom Zeser, our Director of Engineering and Public Works, put together a proposal which would estimate that we would require $55,000 of money out of Capital Project Sales Tax 3, which we do have a line in Capital Project Sales Tax 3 for this specific purpose. That's where the original match was going to come from, and that we can do this project in-house. And so ultimately what this action is before the council is to gain your approval to change our strategy from going from a grant request to going to an in-house capability with our own CPSD3 money, which we can still do cheaper in-house than if we had done through the grant process.
So we won't be using the grant money at all, or we'll need that and our money?
No grant money, Mr. Mayor.
No grant money, we'll just, okay.
Does that hurt our city turning down a grant? I mean, down the road, there's a, well,
No, ma'am.
who
My
said no, ma'am?
experience, it does not, no.
I mean,
And then the difference, so let me get back my,
So to put it in the basic math terms,
Yeah.
with the grant amount was for $77,000. That was based on the project cost of just under $100,000. When we went out to bid and came back, it came in well over twice that, so at $241,000. And so our grant match was going to be significantly upped because it's a percentage match, not a flat match. And also the time constraints associated with this, with grant funding, there are a lot more hoops you got to jump through. And so ultimately, we can do it cheaper and faster in-house than doing it through the grant process. If this had priced at the original estimates of closer to $100,000, I'd be recommending we move forward with the grant. But that's not where the pricing came out. And so ultimately, I think we can do this cheaper and faster here within our city assets.
and it will, oh, I'm sorry, it will be up to the standards of what we had the grant and the money. You know, I don't want us to spend money and then down the road say, whoop, we should have waited, we could have had a little bit better. See what I'm saying?
I do, Councilwoman, but there's also some time commitment requirements for this grant. And so ultimately, we'd still have money left over, if you would, that if there were things you wanted to add in there later, you might have that ability to do so. Whereas on the grant side of the house, once that money is out, it's out.
Now, Mayor, this is a question. Mr. Jackson, this is one of, I know he's going to beat me up afterwards, one of his concerns. Can he come and speak, not at this? All right, so next Monday, can he come at 5:30? And I don't want to speak for him, so I don't want to get messed up. I'd rather him tell his concerns. So, Mr. Jackson, maybe next Monday at the power hour, and let him come and speak.
If he
'Cause
was-
it'll be
well,
before we
great-
vote.
Great question. He needs to, he can speak at the city council meeting when it's open to the public.
Okay.
The public power hour is not about anything on the agenda item. We can't
Okay,
talk about
that's
public
right.
power hour.
Okay. All right, I just want him to, and please forgive me if you get mad, but I want you, what you were expressing to me, that everybody hear that, okay? Because he is a big Greenway user and
We want the
walk,
Greenway.
that's right.
This is gonna
That's
make it
yeah,
happen
it is,
fast.
but he just had a few little concerns. So we'll, next week, thank you.
All right, subject to any other questions, we'll move to the next item. Item number 10, under Economic Development, Resolution number 2022-41, a resolution to provide a local match for a Municipal Association of South Carolina Hometown Economic Development Grant. And with this one, I'm going to send this over to Rachel to go ahead and talk this item.
Mayor and Council, this may look familiar to you. We apply every year for this grant opportunity. It's highly, highly competitive. This year, we're submitting a grant application to purchase light pole banners, primarily for the downtown area. We have 137, we have poles that can hang 137 banners is how I should say it. And they're beautiful, and there are different levels and types of banners, but you would be shocked if you knew how much a banner costs. So through this grant, all of the funding will be applied towards new banners just for the downtown area. It's $25,000 grant, $37.50 match for $28,750 total project. Yes, sir.
Are we buying just the material itself and we will get imprinted, or are we going in saying this is what the banner's gonna look like? Do we know what the banners will look like?
No, we don't. This is just to get money to purchase the banners.
Versus banners, and we put on it what we want later?
That's correct.
But I would like to suggest too, down the road, as we did in Rick and Bob, y'all remember when artists in North Augusta hand painted the banners. Those were absolutely beautiful. And I know we still have some hanging around. But gracious, that's been how many years? And I'm sure the torn with the weather and all that. But
Mary Ann reminds
I
me of
just
that all the
think
time.
That makes it feel more community-oriented, sort of.
I agree. This would be a first pass at a whole new set of banners, whether we bought the same, 137 of the same, or we parsoned it out. This is just our first step. Banners can be anywhere from $150 to $200 a banner, and that adds up really quick. Yeah, it's more than you think for the quality that we need. We'll find out probably within 60 days. Like I said, this is highly competitive. The Municipal Association only awards maybe 10 or so a year.
Thank you.
All right, so you want to take the next one as well?
This is a joke, but I'd be sure some alligators got on there.
Okay. We're really excited to have this resolution for you all to consider. We are excited to undergo an update to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We went out for bid and we had 5 proposals. We scored all of them, interviewed the top 2 ranked proposers, the 2 vendors, and we've selected the Land Plan Group South to perform our master plan update for us. They're fully prepared to get started whenever we're ready, hopefully in October, once this resolution is approved. You may remember in fiscal year 21, we budgeted $75,000 towards this plan with the hopes of getting a $25,000 grant actually from the Municipal Association. We've applied for that before. When we didn't get that grant, our parks staff applied through the state parks department and we got a $22,000 grant. So we didn't expend the funds in FY22. So essentially those funds remained in our capital projects fund. That's where they were budgeted. So the 75 that remain, the 22,000 in grant funds, plus I think we need 2,000, 3,000 additional from the capital projects fund. So this is for a total expenditure of $100,000.
Couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully it'll begin in October. Do we have an idea what the ending time will be? Is this going to be a 6-month engagement, 9 months? Do we
9
have
to
a
10
rough
months.
idea? 9 to 10 months. And in that, there will be I would assume, multiple opportunities for the public input in different charrettes or whatever format they would have, right?
That's correct. The Land Plan Group is really good at what they do when it comes to the landscape architecture, engineering, the plan writing. Their partner for public input is the Boudreaux Group, and so you all are somewhat familiar with Boudreaux Group. Irene Dumas-Tyson will be leading up the public input session. She's fantastic, knows North Augusta. She's really good at what she does for public input.
Oh, that's great. Okay, makes me happy. Okay, good, very good, thank you.
Will this include the country club property?
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, as Rick spoke with the members of our delegation, one of the main reasons that they approved funding for us was to focus on the country club. So this isn't going to be necessarily a full master plan for the country club per se, but it will encompass a very large portion of it.
So
Awesome.
will they come back and basically say this is the best use for this based on price kind of thing? Is that what?
That's all right, based on input, based on national standards, pricing, gaps in services in our area, in our region. Yep.
All right, thank you.
That's great, thank you.
Yep. We're excited.
Moving on to item 12, under Planning and Development, resolution number 2022-43, a resolution authorizing funding for removal of city bald cypress trees through the use of fiscal year 2022 funds. So this is a problem that's been ongoing for a number of years, but we have bald cypress trees is one of the type of trees that is in the Hammonds Ferry district. And so what we're seeing with this type of tree is the trees were initially installed without root barriers, and that tree itself is not necessarily ideally suited for that particular neighborhood. Understand that the developer is the one that chose the tree, not the city. But the trees themselves have these knees, if you will. They come up underneath the sidewalk onto people's properties, and then they are starting to intrude, and potentially the concern there is they may get to the structures themselves and cause damage. So upon advice of our city attorney, after we went and looked at it with Roy Kibler and his team, along with some of the folks involved with Hammond's Ferry, the decision was reached that it would be best to remove the trees to not have those continue to intrude into homeowners' residences to see what that looks like. There are a total of 54 trees, maximum number of 54 trees that could be removed. And what you see here essentially in the resolution is that the resolution is crafted so that I'm hereby directed to take all the steps necessary to implement a plan to remove up to 54 trees. And the plan would only remove trees in front of residences with the express permission of the homeowner. So we will not remove trees in front of someone's home that does not want the tree removed. And that I would execute up to $20,000 out of the Administrator's Contingency Fund in our general O&M fund budget for this year. This is not a budgeted item. This was not something that we had budgeted for previously, but again, based on the concerns about liability in the future, I believe this is a project we're going to have to undertake. What this doesn't answer, though, is in this resolution is, what trees would be replaced and under what timeline and who is responsible for paying those, whether that's, the Hammond's Ferry development or whether that's the city, and that is going to be an open question that we'll have to address in the future. But the near-term requirement, in our opinion, is to remove the trees to get them out of the liability problem. And I will defer to either anyone on staff or our city attorney if you have anything else you want to add.
Well, I do think I need to, for full disclosure purposes, I've been aware of this problem. We've had some discussion. So I don't have a cover anymore. I think.
I'd say,
Bob's
I
got
took
it,
one
yeah.
from, I didn't take his, I took one from over
Oh.
next to Rachel.
But I think council needs to be aware. My son lives on that street, and he's one of them having the problem. So basically, I do have a little bit of conflict as far as giving a recommendation as to what's to be done. Obviously, I do not object or oppose what's being done, and Jim has set forth the issue and the problem that we're having to deal with.
And just to put the problem scope in context, even though Mr. Patrick Zier is one of the complainants, I've had a number of citizens across two streets bring this problem to our attention, to include the homeowners association. So at the end of the day, I don't believe this is one person's problem that we're trying to solve with city dollars. I think this is a neighborhood problem that we're trying to address.
It is.
No, and that's actually came up because, Will Green contacted me about this, I guess, about 6-8 months ago, and kind of the same thing. So it's not just him. I think there's several other people that it's affecting.
And Councilman, I would say is I was not comfortable 6 or 8 months ago diving into the contingency fund that early in the fiscal year, understanding that our tree budget does not account for, this expense. But after we've crossed over mid-year and seeing what our burn rate is and see what other, issues are on the horizon, I felt a little more comfortable being able to bring this to council to be able to head and dip into contingency this year to do it.
And I think you made the comment that these trees were not chosen by the city, the developer did. So
That's
I think
correct.
when you move forward with this next piece of which part is responsible going forward, I think we need to be real careful.
Yes, Mr.
I
Mayor.
feel like
And
we're stepping up to the plate here.
Roy Kilber has already gone through and done a tree assessment through the neighborhood. There are a number of other types of trees that are flourishing in Hammond's Ferry that are doing well, that are not causing the same problems in the neighborhood. And so that would be our recommendation, whether it's the city's requirement or whether it's the developer's requirement, which is still a question at hand. But we will not allow bald cypress trees to be replanted, I guess is my quick way of saying it.
Jim, are there any sidewalks that need to be replaced because of the knees?
It has caused some buckling in the past in some of the sidewalks. We'd have to go look at the assessment on seeing whether or not we'll have to remediate any of the sidewalks going through on this project.
Well, it looks like if the developer had authorized that type tree, why aren't they paying a little money to have them removed?
Well, that's a great legal question, Councilwoman, but
Well, anybody else a lawyer in here, raise your hand.
but ultimately, the city took receipt of those trees. It's past the end of the maintenance guarantee, and so those are part and parcel city items now in city property.
And-
So I'm of the opinion that the developer ought to have a hand in the replacement of those trees.
about to say.
But I believe that it's currently incumbent upon the city from a liability requirement or risk to go ahead and remove them.
And like if you said, if a citizen does not want those trees removed, then I
Well-
think they should sign off on something that the city's no longer responsible.
The city attorney
You had the
has-
opportunity and you didn't take it, so.
The city attorney is working with me now on such liability release waivers. And again, it's not just a person in the neighborhood who doesn't want the trees removed.
Right.
It would be the resident with the tree in front of their house.
Now, are these bald cypress in other neighborhoods within the city limits?
I don't have visibility of whether they're planted elsewhere in the city. They may be,
coming back to us.
but we haven't received any complaints.
Complaints.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, there are plenty of bald cypress in the city. Riverview Park has plenty of them.
Okay, well, we might just be aware of that. I mean, Duva here might be coming back.
Yeah, I got many phone calls on this issue, but yeah, so there are some bald cypress I know over in River North for sure. So, anyway.
Subject to any other questions, we'll move into item number 13, which I'll also puck over to Rachel, but I'll read the resolution number 2022-44, authorizing the city of North Augusta to enter into a contract to construct a regional materials recovery processing building. And Rachel, if you can talk that, please.
This is a really big step for us in rebuilding the MRF, the materials recycling facility. Our staff over, these past 9 months or so has done an incredible amount of evaluation on how do we rebuild, what's the most effective, what's the most efficient, and how do we rebuild for the future. Amongst all of that, our staff has taken on a huge load themselves internally, from demolition, some rebuilding on their own, whether that's public services, public works, streets and drain staff. It's really been amazing, and as part of our doing that, we were able to cut costs. We also have gone out for bid to try to repair the facility. It was an incredible amount of money, to the extent that we had vendors saying you really just need to tear down the stuff that you got. It's really not salvageable. So that's what our folks did. So what you have now is the bid to rebuild a 12,500 foot structure so that we can really get underway on building back. So that was a long way of saying we have cleared out all of the debris. Our staff has done an incredible job being very efficient with resources so that we can apply all of our funds to building back an awesome facility. I almost said building back better. But I paused. So once we get this facility up, we can really get underway with replacing all of our equipment for our processing, and hopefully by the beginning of the new year have a fully operational materials recycling facility. We'll have some other updates to provide to you along the way, because we'll have a couple other large purchase items for you all to approve. All of this is being paid for through the insurance money that we received after the fire.
What's the time frame of getting this built?
We hope to be fully operational in the first quarter of next year.
Very good.
Subject to any questions by council, that concludes our item 1 on our study session for tonight. And I'm prepared to move us over into department details if you're so ready to go there. With that, I think we'll lead off with Linda from Finance.
Good evening. My update today is that our Cycle 2 customers will have a due date on Monday, September 19th. And then immediately following that, our Cycle 1 utility customers will face cutoff disconnect cycles through September 20th and September 21st.
Thank you, Linda.
Next up, we'll have James from Public Services.
I think you meant October, didn't you? October, not
20th
September.
and 21st. Oh, September. It says October. We'll give 'em Jim.
Good evening. We are currently, property maintenance is currently starting out to prepare for some fall weather. They're applying some pre-emergent in some of the landscaped areas to control the weeds at a later date. And the same, we're going to get ready for some fall flower planting, some of the landscape beds in various areas of the city to continue our beautification program. Utilities continues to conduct water testing of the system, flow and pressure testing. It's going to be conducted in areas from Waccamaw Drive along West Martintown Road up to Savannah Barony subdivision, to which we will conclude the testing, and we're on schedule to do so in mid-October. Any questions?
Thank you, James.
All right, followed by Tommy Paradise of Planning and Development.
One of the things we've got tonight is we've received the draft copy of the revised development code. We've pushed that out to the committee members for their review, and we're in the process of making hard copies so that people like Mr. McGee and me that like to read it, instead of having it in a digital format, can go through that and mark it up, and then we'll be meeting on that again. And then the other thing is the Planning Commission is next Wednesday night.
Standing in for Chief Thomas, we have Captain Billy Lucky.
Good evening. I'm happy to report to you that Station 1 has got landscaping going in now, and the punch lists have been developed, and they're working on those. So we'll be requesting a certificate of occupancy at some point in the not-too-distant future. I'd also like to report to you that the rescue/service vehicle, as approved through the ARPA money, has been ordered. The expected time frame on that is 18 to 24 months because we have to get in line. We've also signed the contract for the Smart Cop software, which replaces our about 12-year-old software for our CAD, records management, patrol vehicles. It's just a whole suite of software, and that has also been, it's been signed, and we're expecting to start working on that first of the year.
First of the year.
Yes, sir. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Captain Lucky.
Next up, Rick from PRT.
18 to 20.
Good evening. Riverview Park scheduled to host USSSA Travel Baseball Tournament this weekend in the year of the tournaments at the park. And my understanding is this tournament's shaping up to be a large one this weekend, which is good. The South Carolina Recreation and Parks Association will bring their 2022 lead class of 11 young professionals to North Augusta this Thursday to tour our city's recreation facilities and listen to our key staff share our story. There's a reason they come here. They've been coming here now for their last 3 classes, and it has a lot to do with the fact that North Augusta has invested in PRT, in the story that you have helped create here in North Augusta. And last, PRT has a RecTrack software update in progress, and I'm happy to report that should make online registration that much easier for our community residents, and it's about time for that, as well as easier on our staff. Any questions?
Yes.
I have one, not about this. On the San Salvador Drive, when you go in, there's some little flags
Okay.
on the right side there, kind of where there's been a pile of trash at times, but there's some little flags. I don't know if that's tied in with something Rory's doing with sod there, or is that anything?
I need to ask him, because
I just happened to notice that the other day.
It could even possibly have been left from the construction, but I'll check that.
I was just curious.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
And on the tournament, Rick, are
Yes.
they renting the entire park, every field? Because, you know, a lot of times people go over to play
Yeah.
and we're told you can't get on the park because we're
I'll let you
renting it.
know by Thursday.
okay.
Yeah, we won't know till Thursday morning, but I'll make sure we put that out. Yep. But
Rick.
right now, from what I've heard, it's shaping up to be that way.
Okay.
I just wanted to, for anybody listening or anybody that's bored, Derek has been texting me left and right, they need coaches for soccer. So I figure anybody listening, if they've got some spare time, I'm just so busy.
Come on,
I
Eric.
don't know, I might. I hadn't let him know yet, but I mean, I think they're in need in soccer for a lot of coaches. Maybe Billy will help me. I used to coach his son.
Thank you, Rick.
Next up, Tom Zeser from Department of Public Works and Engineering.
I don't know, Rick, maybe that flagging has something to do with the median work that Streets and Drains is doing at the entrance there. Maybe the utility locates. They're going to be putting brick pavers in that little entrance median right there where the tree got run over several months ago.
Okay, very good.
Similar to what's at the other entrance at Georgetown Villas.
Thank you.
I guess I'll call this a lack of progress report. A few weeks ago, I advised that we had our C-Fund resurfacing bid date for September 1st. We received no bids for that project. So we have re-advertised the project for a new bid date of October 6th. And based on feedback that we received from some prospective bidders, we have extended the project completion date to next spring, April 30th, 23.
That's unbelievable.
But it's just indicative of our current construction climate we're in. That's it.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Last but not least, our HR manager, J.D. McCauley.
Good evening. Just gave you guys a list of our current job openings or current job postings. For anyone that's listening, it's going to northaugusta.sc.gov/jobs is where we advertise those, and as you guys know, we update that every Friday. We had a great turnout at our last job fair we went to the SRP job fair on August 30th. Thanks to Public Safety who came out and joined us. We had, like I said, great turnout, great interest, and we'll be at the Fort Gordon job fair October 6th. We have an employee health fair, which will be next week on the 22nd, and council, you guys are invited. It's from 10 to 2 at the community center. So hope to see you guys there. Thank you.
Thank you, JD.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm slow here, I guess. Tom, what about the sidewalks from PK to North Augusta High School? Somebody was asking about that. I mean,
Come on up, Big Tom.
I'm sorry, and I got one for Rick too.
Yeah, without, I getting too much into it right now. Yeah, that project, we did take bids on that 2 weeks ago or so as well. We only received one bid, and that bid was grossly in excess of our project budget and grant amount. We are still in the process of evaluating our path forward on that, so that's why I did not have a more complete report for you tonight. But we're working with DOT and internally to bring forth a revised recommendation on that project as well. But it's still very much a project we intend to accomplish.
Yeah.
Well said. Good job, Tom.
And you know, it's getting to be a sad day. We've talked about 3 projects here tonight, and we're getting either 0 or 1 bid. I mean, that's getting to be a sad thing. Now, Mr. Rick, on our, come on back up. The little resource paper we got with our council packet, and I'm sure that's going out with the water bills, that survey, is that part of the 10-year plan, I mean, the master plan?
No.
Okay, because I don't know if anybody read the survey. It's got good questions that the citizens need to answer.
You're talking about the research?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't talking about that, but yeah.
Oh, you talk, oh,
No,
I'm
that's
sorry,
okay.
Mayor,
Yeah,
Lord
no,
mercy.
go ahead.
Okay, I was just reading the questions, and there's some good questions for our citizens to please respond.
That comes from that's stormwater management. Yeah, not Rick, yeah. Okay. All right, we're good.
All right, Mr. Mayor, let's go to our final item, at least under Mayor's Matters, and I'll go into the fiscal year 2022 update. Next slide, please. So really, this is a new item. I really wanted to just take this opportunity to educate our citizens and also to re-educate the council members on some of our fiscal 2022 budget priorities and projects that were listed in the budget and give you a status on where we're at on a number of those projects. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So this item here under information and technology was actually from a fiscal year 21 budget, but took us all the way through into 22 to get implemented. So 3 items in there. One is cloud storage. So ultimately, Ricky has been working on a project to get a number of our services out of the IT broom closet here in the municipal center and put them into a more secure status. And so the first item there is a stab at that project of moving things into the cloud, so to speak, for long-term storage, and that's been a successful iteration. Here internally in the city, I know the council members are aware, we have gone to Office 365, which is a cloud-based Microsoft service package, so that's your email, your Word, PowerPoint, all the things that you do for office productivity. We got away from buying licensed copies and then moving into the cloud-based Office 365. That's what's resident on your phones and also through the folks here inside the building. And that was a successful transition. And lastly, what was most applicable to our citizens was the transition of our emails and our city website from the .net domain to the .gov domain. So again, for all of our citizens, if you have old email addresses, the .net addresses will still auto-forward to the .gov addresses, but they will be your information will be responded to from a .gov address, not a .net address. And likewise, if you go through any of the major search engines, Google or Bing or whatnot, and you Google North Augusta, the city of, you're going to get the .gov website because it's properly indexed now with the search engines.
But now, Jim, I emailed one of the rec people, and it wasn't Rick, but another one with the .gov, and it came back and said it did not go through.
Well, I can be happy to talk to you about that afterwards, Councilman. I'm not sure if that's from your end or our end, but I'd say right now we've not seen significant issues with you folks getting the emails. But we could take a look at that with our folks. Next slide. So under personnel, we added, based on the growth of the city, we added a planner position that was effective 1 July. We actually made an internal selection. With Stacy Reese, moved up from our planning tech to our planner, and then we backfilled Stacy with an outside candidate for the planning tech. So we now have a full planning shop as of, I believe, September 21st. Our planning tech will come on board here next week. We added a grounds worker 2 position in PRT to focus significantly on the Greenway based on feedback we got from mayor and council. Based on the workload that we have within Public Works, Streets and Drains added another position which is filled. So to the point there about the Greenway extension, that's a large part of who's going to do that kind of labor, and Streets and Drains would be a big part of that as well. We've added firefighters to the grade structure. So previously they were not listed within our grade structure, and that's an important first step to professionalizing the force as far as their pay structure goes. And then lastly, we fully instituted the employee education reimbursement benefit, of which we have several of our employees currently taking advantage of to get reimbursed for some of their school tuition as they go forward. That's a program that had been on paper but not been funded in previous years, and this year was our first year of fully implementing this program, and that's been fairly successful, and I suspect you're going to see that grow in future years. Next slide. Under Facilities and Public Works and Services, you had a number of items that were requested in last year's budget, or this year's budget. One was to kind of refresh the municipal center with a power washing project that was completed last month. Tom Zeser and his crew were able to contract out to get the alarm panels replaced because those were due. And then of interest, I think, for the council as well was the Arts and Heritage Center, which is resident here inside the municipal building, and I'm not sure why the word rude is on there, but okay. It's probably roof repairs. And so ultimately, we have some leakage, and if you've been to the Arts and Heritage Center during a high rain event, you're going to see buckets and whatnot down there as they've got leaks. So we went through a number of different avenues, and Tom Zeser's really been the quarterback on this project. But ultimately, we believe we've isolated what the cause of the fault is, and we have a contractor lined up to do the work. They need 3 days in a row of no rain because they're going to actually physically open up the roof to remediate the problems and close it up again. And so as soon as we have that 3 days of no rain scheduled, it could be as early as this week, but certainly here in the near future is when we're going to see the roof repair on the Arts and Heritage Center. The council also approved previously a Dominion Power LED lighting retrofit resolution. That work is ongoing throughout the city. That's not to be confused with the ornamental lights in downtown. That's the Dominion-owned poles that are here throughout the city, and they have started work here. And then James and his team were able to get the new Willowick wastewater lift station pump installed there just north of Exit 1. Next slide. So under public safety, you can see now Fire Station 1 is nearing completion. They're going through punch list items, and that building is almost done, and that was paid for through capital project sales tax, $3. And then also you'll see the public safety headquarters site preparation is ongoing. So the city work crews have knocked down the grass and the high bushes. They removed the old single-story motel, and as of this afternoon have removed the structures there on Observatory Avenue and are working through that project through the rest of the week. We have now received 8 bids for general contractors for the public safety headquarters, and we're in the process of evaluating those, and we'll bring that back to council here in the next probably 45 days for approval and action at that point in time. Also based on the incident we had downtown, the city council, go back one please. The city council had approved in-vehicle rifle racks for our public safety officers. That project is now complete. So previously those rifle locks were in the rear of the vehicle, causing a public safety officer to have to exit the vehicle and open the back of their Chevy Tahoe, gain access to their long gun, and be able to put it into effect, which was obviously way too much time. So in this case, they're now properly mounted inside the cabs of the vehicles and a lock. And the last thing under public safety is we added a school resource officer to Paul Knox Middle School, and that's mostly paid through with a grant, although there is a city match associated with that. Next slide. So under downtown quality of life, in conjunction with the Dominion Power, Tom Zeser was able to propose an update to our ornamental lights to do an LED retrofit throughout the downtown quarter, West Avenue, Georgia Avenue, and side streets. That is now completed. We've purchased and installed downtown amenities with design aesthetic feedback from North Augusta Forward and the Merchants Alliance, and then have now since installed those 3 types of items, the benches, trash cans, and bike racks that you see now in the downtown corridor. And then also for downtown, Tommy Paradise has previously briefed the implementation of the Georgia Avenue traffic calming study. Some of our citizens may have noted the strips that were across the road. That was really for traffic count purposes, and that was put there by the group doing the traffic calming study. So we'll see the results of that sometime next year, and that's going to drive us to make some changes in how we're doing trafficability. And the first area we're going to focus on is likely the pedestrian crosswalk right near the Sheila's Bakery and the Pink Dipper. Thank you. We also made a more concerted effort at hosting the women's amateur golf tournament players that stayed at the Crown Plaza this year as part of the Masters tournament. And so PRT and tourism did a lot of work with that, along with several of our council members in greeting those ladies and the professionals that they were. And I think that was a great step forward for us to be able to continue doing that in the future years. And I think it was a good economic development aspect as well. For the Greenway users, we've repaved the Riverview Park Loop that was recently completed. And then we also conducted our inaugural Rockin' and Rafting event in the summer.
And Jim, I would also like, I know we hosted with the women's amateur golf, but I really think we need to do something with that Peach Jam too. Host those people coming in like we did with the ladies golf, because that's a big thing coming in North Augusta.
Yes, ma'am. Next slide, please. Also wanted to highlight some of the unforecasted requirements that we had had to react to this year. So the team had to remove the tree from Riverside Village Amphitheater. That was an unforeseen circumstance. We also had to do an emergency repair of Southwest Interceptor line. So James Sutton's team had to do about $188,000 repair to the line. And that also precipitated our recommendation to the council to move forward with an ARPA funding request for the wastewater interceptor line, which is currently being staffed. We also had the demolition and ultimate removal of the pedestrian Greenway Bridge. You see a picture there of what the bridge looked like after the tree limb came down on that. And that also spurred a council decision to backfill that bridge with a steel bridge or metal bridge that Tom Zeser and his team are working on now. And then last but not least, the demolition of the material recovery facility, the MRF, based on the fire there, and then getting that back into at least temporary operation. And that's been an enormous effort by James Sutton and his team to get us back to at least a structural mobility. Next slide. So really, I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the projects for you and for our citizens. We're going to be going into the fiscal year 23 budget prep, and we'll have a study session here at the end of the month to talk about the budget. So I wanted you to at least have this on your radar, knowing these are the things that you have previously approved, the status of those projects as you look towards the next fiscal year going out the gate. So subject to any of your questions, that's all I have from my chair here during the focus items area.
I think this was a good update. Thank you. Appreciate all the hard effort from staff across the board. And a lot of things happen behind the scenes that citizens don't actually see specifically, but they are being done to help do a better job taking care of our citizens. So thank you for the update. Very well done.
Mr. Mayor, I turn it back over to you. The staff is complete.
I've only got 3 things, but before I do, anything for anybody? Pat, come on. Come on. You've been fired up tonight. Keep it going.
Yeah, I'm getting quiet now.
You good? You nothing on your nothing? Okay.
I just got to say it.
Yeah, go ahead, say it.
So proud of App State. Pulled off that upset.
How's it going?
Yeah, well, I mean, my nephew's there, so
Yeah, I know.
that was great. I don't know who saw it, but
It was good.
I know it's not a local school, but I'm
That's
just
all
proud of him.
It's all good. Just 3 things. Just want to remind everybody, third Thursday this week, it's a football tailgate theme. And Jimmy talked about the Arts and Heritage Center. The Wrecking Crew has done an art display. They'll have a reception for them this Thursday at 5. There'll be food and tap truck down there as well. So please come by Arts and Heritage Center, see the work of the Wrecking Crew, and then work through the rest of the downtown to support our merchants. Pat, thank you for sharing this about the resource. So for our citizens, this came in this is the water bill, right? Water, okay. And Pat, you are right. This is a great survey. It asks a lot of questions. As a matter of fact, questions that citizens ask us, that ask the Planning Commission what we care about when it comes to trees. Do I care about water? Do I care about shade? Do I care about a lot of things? This is a chance that we're asking you as a citizen, tell us what concerns you so we can use this. And if you do it, you also have a chance to win 1 or 2 $50 prizes. So anyway, I fill mine out, but I know I can't win anything. But anyway, please do that. Last thing is this Saturday, the 17th, the Border Bash, Trash Bash at the border at the amphitheater. Please come at 8:30 so you can sign a liability form, get your supplies. We'll be picking up trash on the river for the second time 2 to 3 hours. I'll have you home before the Georgia-Carolina game at noon. Once again, we're going against Augusta, and I like to think we do a lot of really good things over here, and this is one thing we need to make sure we really do well, because I don't want to, again, go to the new mayor and have to give him an award. So
Well, Britton,
if you can give me about 2 hours of your time on Saturday, it keeps our river clean, and Michaela's done a wonderful job working with Candace Cave at the Keep Aiken County Beautiful. So we'll have all the supplies. All we need are some people. So
Can we just Friday night park the trailer there, and then as they're cleaning up, just from the border bash?
yes.
Is that technically cheating? I mean,
We're gonna pick it up one way or the other. Yeah. So
Now, we'll-
anyway,
we'll say,
that's all
Mayor,
I got.
I've got a new job now, subbing at the high school. And when I was up there, I had 2 different groups come to me and said they were coming Saturday. And one of their parents said, I'm telling you, this just excites my child to do this. So you got, last year we had 1, this time we're up to 2.
Yep, awesome, great. Okay, anything else good for the order? All right, thank y'all. Y'all have a good evening. We stand adjourned.
I had an announcement. The flags that you were asking about mark the locations where camellias will be transported from the Flythe property to be planted at the entryway of the parks. That's what our property maintenance folks are doing. That's what those flags are for. San Salvador.